You have spent months, perhaps years, dismantling the mechanisms behind the curtain. You have learned to recognize status games, levers of influence, the way systems build their authority out of your fears, and how language itself is shaped to guide your decisions. You believed, as we all do, that what we call knowledge is an armor, that if you understand the architecture, you become immune to it. But today, at the end of this road, we must look beyond equations and strategies. We must talk about the moment the armor becomes too heavy, and you discover that the obsession with understanding power is, in itself, the ultimate and most subtle form of slavery. You do not see the world, you complete it. The human brain is a pattern detector, not for truth, but for survival. The rest is a byproduct of safety. When you begin to understand the structures of power, the ultimate reward appears, the illusion of control. The world becomes a chessboard. People become positions. Gestures become signals. But the chessboard never existed. The control button becomes a drug, and, without noticing, the tool begins to use you. You no longer look at a face, but a mask. You no longer hear a voice, but a strategy in motion. This is not clarity. This is the slow contamination of perception. There is a point where analysis stops explaining the world and begins to replace it. The truth that no theory can capture is simple and unacceptable. Life refuses the model. Despite all algorithms, predictions, and optimization schemes, there remains a core that does not fit into the system. And sometimes, that core shatters everything without warning. A man resigns without a plan, not because he calculated freedom, but because the air inside became impossible. A decision that optimizes nothing. It merely holds continuity. That is where the crack begins. Systems theory calls it emergence. But the word is too clean, too quiet. In reality, it is a collapse of the predictable, a cut in the continuity of the world. That is where the architecture of power stops. It can only describe the repetitive, the controllable, the coherent. It has no vocabulary for the absurdly free gesture. Every system tries to swallow the rupture and turn it into a story. But the rupture refuses the story. And this exact refusal is the only form of truth the system cannot metabolize. This journey was not a manual for manipulation. If you turn it into a weapon, you have not left the game. You have merely changed your position within it. Power does not disappear. It refines itself. Post-power is not superiority. It is a structural indifference toward the game. It does not mean defeating the system, but ceasing to mistake it for reality. Social coherence is merely a temporary infrastructure for orientation, not a truth. When this illusion cracks, chaos does not appear. Silence appears. And in silence, control no longer has anywhere to grip. When this text stops, you are not left with techniques. You are left with a shift in vision. The system does not collapse spectacularly. It recedes from the center of attention. It becomes background. You become observation. And observation no longer needs permission. Power does not end when you defeat it. It ends when you cease to define yourself by referencing it. Not because you won, but because the game became irrelevant. And even this understanding will be translated, classified, reclaimed. Any freedom becomes material for the system if it is watched long enough, including the freedom to leave it, to subscribe, not as a choice, but as a reflex of a gaze that has already been captured, or not to subscribe, but even absence becomes a sign. And then you understand. There is nothing left to control.